Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Leo. How's it going?
Very well, my friend. I mean, I'm better for seeing you, of course. How you been, my friend?
Yeah, doing really, really well. I hear a little birdie tells me somebody had a birthday yesterday, Leo.
Stop it, right? I know. Do you think I look wiser? Do I look another whole year wiser suddenly?
I think you do. Also, I'm loving this color on you. I think it's working.
Thanks. Well, that's brand. I'm repping the brand. As I mentioned to you a couple of times, this is our big relaunch week. So, Super Hog is being sunsetted to be replaced by Groovy. So I'm repping. I'm doing brand colors, brand logo. I'm here for it.
That's amazing. I love these kind of changes. They're always a little bit stressful. Let's be honest. I guess when things like this happen, when you're doing a rebranding, but it can also be exciting. It's like a fresh new start, sort of. So.
Yeah,
awesome.
we've been working on it for a long time, and the marketing team would say, I'm sure, at parts it's been stressful. They're the ones taking on all the responsibility for it. Me, I just get to come onto the podcast and tell you how excited I am about it. So, and
rep the colors.
Yeah, exactly. For fear of irritating someone in the marketing team, I will say yes, it's a stressful experience rebranding for sure. It's not as easy as it looks. What have you been up to, my friend? What's been keeping you busy?
I mean, I got to tell you, so I've stopped going to the gym and I've been doing my at-home workout routine and it's been going amazing. I absolutely love it. I feel more sore than I ever did at the gym, which is miraculous. Amazon will be happy with me because I've ordered a bunch of like free weights and, so to have like the equipment at home. But I just find that like the fact that I can roll out of bed and do it immediately and then not have to pack a bag and like shower at the gym and all this kind of stuff, it just means that I am much more consistent. And that is the key to progress. So loving that. And things are moving along with the reno at the flat. So they're saying probably like first week of February. Wow. But finalizing all those little design elements and it's starting to become real. So yeah, exciting.
Excited for you, buddy. I guess that means your first episode of the pod from the new apartment, including the tour, is going to be coming in February for the audience to enjoy.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think I may have to do. Well, my goal is to get it rented as soon as possible, which for other reasons as well, which we'll talk about later on the pod. But there's some really interesting legislation that they're trying to pass in Spain that is surrounding rentals, and so anytime that you have unknowns, it's better to have precedent so that you can be grandfathered in or given more time or whatever the case may be. So goal is to get it on the market as soon as possible, but I will consider making a video.
Well, it's pressing then, isn't it? We will get to that in our hospitality highlights or indeed lowlights. Good for you. I mean, look, in an attempt to impress you, I thought, right, I'll go and dip in the cold water. I'll try and get my January cold water dip done. So 2 days ago, I go down to the seafront. It's pretty calm. It's pretty flat down there. So I sort of waddle in with all my might, only to find that I've overstepped and the pebbles start to give way. And before I know it, I'm neck deep in water. And then I'm scrabbling around just desperately trying to get out of the water, said water as quickly as possible because it was so unbelievably cold. So, Sarah, that's my January swim done. And anybody on the beach in Brighton that day who was having a good old laugh at me, yes, I didn't mean to go in up to my neck that quickly. So it was like, honestly, it was like falling in quicksand. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, this is fine. I'll just go to oh, no, I'm up to my neck. and I was cursing your name, Sarah. I was like, why did you set me this challenge of one a month? So there you go.
You know what, Lee? I also read something else the other day, which is that it tightens the skin, cold water, or cold in general. So that's why people wear those, those like face masks that are all, I need to get myself one of those. That's like, you just wear it and it freezes on your face. So you're doing yourself, you're like even younger. You look so much younger, and you just had a birthday.
You.
So it's
Thank
working.
you. Flattery will get you everywhere. But much more my jam. This morning, I turned up at one of these new sort of beachside saunas with a buddy of mine, and you just go and bake in a sauna for half an hour while looking at the sea. That's more my jam. I've decided that's the kind of seaside dweller I am, I think.
I like it. I like it. I totally agree. I actually hate the cold, as you know. So, but the cold, for some reason, I do my cold. I've been doing my cold showers, and I just feel it's awful when you're doing it, but I feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah.
I just feel more productive.
Yeah. Look, listeners, comment, share, like, please. I mean, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think of all these ridiculous things we're trying to do just to stay feeling young and good on a weekly basis. But there we go. Anyway, Sarah, we're going to do predictions. We're going to start the year. We're going to do our predictions episode, which we're very excited about. Now, before we jump into full predictions, obviously the news keeps going. So let's quickly just go through what's caught our eye this week. It's not the best news out of Spain. I think you're probably going to start us there, right?
Yeah. So, and I, you know what? I'm going to be controversial again. I have mixed feelings about the law. There are some things that I really like about it. So, kind of an overview. Basically, Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish president, it's not passed yet, but he is trying to get legislation passed that have 12 different principles that would all be surrounding housing to address the housing crisis that is taking place in Spain, which I think nobody's surprised to hear that there's a affordable housing crisis. And so I think for me, some of the measures are really interesting. Some of them a little bit off. So one of the ones that I find interesting is that for once, he finally is admitting what we talk about all the time on the pod, that Spain has only 2.5% of housing in Spain is public housing, which is way far behind other member states in the EU. So France is at 14%, the Netherlands at 34%. So, I mean, they're vastly behind. So I think the good news is they're finally starting to use stats that actually make sense and recognizing that the government is the problem, not short-term rentals exclusively. I think there are some areas where, like, sure, there's overtourism and like things need to be looked at to make that sustainable. But overall, I think it's a really interesting one. It definitely caught everybody's eye for one main thing, which is that I think there are quite a few people, in fact, total opposite of what Spain was doing recently. So Spain, the last 10 years or so, had something called a golden visa, which basically, if you spent more than 500 grand on a property in Spain, you were entitled to a non-lucrative visa. And so there were tons of people. Of course, this was pre-Brexit that all this stuff came in, but there's been a lot of people post-Brexit who have been benefiting from this. And then beforehand, it was mostly like Russian and Chinese investors or investors from other parts of the world. There was the top 3 countries in terms of investment under that visa were China, Russia, and Morocco, interestingly enough. And so they were rich families from these countries who were investing, and then oftentimes would set up one of either the wife or the husband, typically the wife, I guess, and the kids, and they would do life here. And then whoever had the business back home would be back and forth. And so it was an interesting way to, I think, in a lot of cases, potentially escape some of the regime and the controls in some of their countries, but also as a way to, invest in property outside and have additional benefits. So it's total 180 here. One of the biggest things that caught people's eye is that he is now proposing a 100% tax on anyone who purchases a property that is not an EU resident. And so that would basically mean that property would cost you double what it would now. Right now, the non-EU resident tax is 24% when you purchase a property, but this would be 100%. So it would cost you double the price, which I do think would reduce a lot of the speculation with properties, which I think has definitely been driving up some of the prices. I don't think it's the only reason, but in that measure, I think it's interesting for sure. And then the other main parts of the measure are a massive increase in public housing. So they're going to be constructing. I think the figure in the articles, there's 30,000 homes that are just empty right now. Classic Spain, that were taken over by the banks. So they're going to release those over the next several years. And then the government will have access to those homes first rather than the banks, which I think is great. Because in Spain, there's this weird law where if you default on your mortgage, the bank can take your home and you still owe the money for the mortgage. So the bank wins doubly. And so this is the first time that I feel like it's finally fair, right? Because either I'm paying the mortgage or I lose my home. You can't, either you take it as collateral or not. You can't do both. So I think this is good for that. And then the one that's more pertinent to our industry is one of the proposals is to increase taxes, income tax on short-term rental properties. Now, originally, when Leo and I were talking about this, you mentioned, Leo, you were like, oh, all this is so bad. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be controversial again. I don't know that it's bad. I think it actually might be good for two reasons. One, it's going to discourage people who are non-professionals, because if you're operating this as a business, you wouldn't necessarily be paying this higher tax rate anyway. What he's proposing is a higher tax rate on individuals who are operating this. And so I think in a weird way, it kind of benefits our industry. One, it leads to more professionalization. And two, for the property managers in the industry, it's actually really good because it means that you're more likely to get a property under your books that's being managed by a company, because they would not be subject to some of these increased tax rates because they're already paying business tax. So there's a whole bunch of nuance in the measures. As with anything in Spain, it's a big hullabaloo, and he doesn't have majority in the parliament. So let's see if it even gets passed. And then I think the other thing about the increased taxes, this is exactly the kind of measures that I think are interesting for the government rather than a ban. So I'm totally anti a ban. Just as a capitalist, who are you to tell me what I can do with my property? We can enter into a tax debate if we want to later, because I also think a lot of times, who are they to tell me what taxes I have to pay? But that I understand a whole lot more than an all-out ban. And so, you drive the kind of behavior that you want to see. So if you want more properties on long-term rental, what they're proposing is 100% tax rebate for anybody who puts their property on long-term rental, for example. These are the kind of measures that are actually going to maybe tip the scales in the housing crisis rather than just scapegoating short-term rentals. So that is my massive 7-minute soapbox on the subject.
Enjoyed it.
Any thoughts, Leo?
I enjoyed it. I could listen to you talk about it all day, actually. No, I think you're right. I think I like your point on, encourage the behavior you want to see through taxation. It's another lever you can pull. So I think it's interesting. Let's see how it plays out. I also agree with you that it's Spain. The guy doesn't have a majority. It's going to be, a bit of a swing back and forth. This point on 100% taxation on property purchased by people who aren't from the EU. I haven't read this, Sarah. You might have more detail. But when I think about British people who very sadly are no longer in the EU, we are no longer in the European Union. Thank God for that Irish passport, right?
That's
everyone
right.
in the UK starts claiming that, don't they? When I think of British people buying property in Spain, it's normally villas with a shared pool in an area of Spain where nobody lives, where there isn't all access to schools, medical services. There's just big supermarkets, maybe a beach, and maybe not a lot else. I don't know the detail of this bill, but if you're taxing those, that seems like an own goal, because I don't know if that's where Spanish people want to live, or if it's even inappropriate for them to live because they don't have access to those services. So again, I'm not against even that if it's maybe done in areas where they feel like they need to control the situation to allow residents to continue to live or communities to continue to flourish. So I don't know, that's just a quick thought on that, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think this is sort of a classic in Spain, right? A lot of the measures they're putting into place, that's great if you're taking over all this land. But if all these properties have been sat empty for this long, and whenever they go to this company called Sareb, which is the bank holding company when you default on your mortgage and they hold that, they all immediately go on the market. So it's not like nobody's available to buy these properties, and usually you get them for a song. So for the most part, these are places where nobody wants to live. It's, they're touting it as there's all these properties coming to the market. Oh, this new government entity is going to have first purchase option on any new land or buildings that come available, all throughout the country. That's great, but it doesn't fix the problem of rising rents in Barcelona to me at all. The rising rents in Barcelona it's a relatively small city. You've got the mountains on one side and the sea on the other. It cannot expand anymore. And so real estate in Barcelona is going to continue to go up. I don't think any of these measures are really going to help.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let's watch this space on that one. Let's keep moving because we're keen to do our predictions. I've got a quick two, which I'll do very, very quickly, just because all backs to things we've talked about on the pod in different ways. So the first one is the UK, the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, which is the regulating body in the UK, has launched an investigation into Google and its dominance in search as well as advertising services. The organisation will look into how Google's position is impacting businesses such as advertisers and alternative search engines and affects customers. We both know, we talk about this constantly, the EU's Digital Markets Act. So this is the UK having a look at this. So, and if you read the detail of this, it's really similar to what they've been looking at the EU. So again, we've now got a government in the UK that is sort of, I think, more likely to act in a similar way to the EU on a lot of these issues to sort of review whether regulation needs to be in place to clip the wings of these digital businesses. So it's interesting. I assume it means that this will happen for Google, but let's watch this space because we know the impact that's had in the EU around properties being searched on map search and their properties getting priority when someone Googles they want property. So I think it's very interesting. And arguably, it just makes a winner out of whichever company doesn't get clipped, like, ChatGPT or whoever it might be. But that's one to keep an eye out. The other one, which we said we'd call back to, is you might remember before Christmas we talked about that the Constitutional Court in Lisbon was reviewing whether to have a referendum on short-term rentals. They have decided that they will not. So the court has ruled the proposal lacked effective control of the signatures. Clearly, the industry in Lisbon is hailing this as a success for the industry, but there is still opposition mounting around this. So again, I think it's a watch this space. But essentially, at the moment, it means Portugal is still taking that more pragmatic approach since they shifted policy to remove the rules around it and gave more autonomy to local areas, which we reviewed last year. So I think generally speaking, that's good in Portugal because that referendum has been rejected. The idea that you can ban short-term rentals in residential buildings in Lisbon. So for now, a good result.
Yeah. Also, how do we feel about referendums in general, Leo? Do you trust the general public to make a wise decision? Because I don't, given their history.
I would love it if I never get asked to vote in a referendum again. I think I've voted in 3, I think, and I don't think any of them have gone the way I wanted. Yeah, and that was right. I've done 3. I think they've all voted. They've all gone against how I wanted to vote. So yeah, I think that it's the argument against it is it's providing simple solutions to complex problems, and the easy answer is often not the right answer. More times than so. Here we go. 2025. It's predictions time. Sarah, open the floor. I think there's some that you've got that I can feed into, and I'm sure vice versa. So come on, what's going to happen this year? And guys, look forward to this because in 12 months' time, we're going to review and see whether we were right. And if we were wrong, I'm sure we're going to clip it and just make it a brilliant clip of us getting it wrong. Sarah, what have you got for us?
Let's go. Well, also I'll preface it by saying, as my parents and my partner know, I am pretty much never wrong. So prepare yourselves, people. You heard it here first. Phil. Awesome. So I think, unfortunately, I do think we're going to continue to see a persecution of short-term rentals in Europe. I think in particular in the cities. I think this is where, it's been mounting up. It seems like every week there's 2 new things that are coming out and we go, oh, no, not again. We know we have to talk about it, but we don't want to. And so I do think this is going to continue to happen, especially as there continues to be an affordable housing crisis in most major European cities. And in particular in Southern Europe, I think the free movement of people and the ability to work remotely, even if that is, part of the time. Why would you live in a cold place where the weather is awful and you don't see the sun for 6 months out of the year or more if you don't have to, And this is one of the things that I think we're going to continue to see short-term rentals scapegoated for this when, as we've seen, they're not really to blame. But governments will be government. So I think kind of my takeaways from this, and sort of in that similar vein, are we in the industry are going to have to, in 2025, like band together to influence policy. I think a great example of this was the European Holiday Home Association, who actually went to the European Commission and said, hey, this doesn't make any sense. What's happening in Barcelona? This is completely illegal. And it forced them to make a study that actually made sense for once, which was like, hey, all right, bans don't work. Spain is way behind. And then we see kind of the response of the Spanish government. And I think this new law coming out from Spain is largely due to that. Not just the focus on short-term rentals, but the overall housing crisis and actually having a real response to how they're going to fix it. So I do think that is going to be really important and something that we're going to see more of as our industry continues to get closer. I do also continue to see a boom in short-term rentals outside of the major metropolitan areas. I know for me, when I travel in a city now, especially if it's a couple of days, I'm fine being in a hotel. I don't really want to be in a major city for more than 2 or 3 days anyway. They stress me out. I live in a major city. I'd rather go to the countryside, and there I might stay for, a week, or maybe I do a long weekend or whatever the case may be. But I think we're going to continue to see the demand for properties outside of major European cities on the rise, especially those that are within like a pretty quick driving distance. So let's say, I don't know, 2 hours, hour and a half of some of these major cities. So I think this is definitely an opportunity. It's also going to be less persecuted by the governments and the tax man and all of these sort of things and any kind of potential bans, because as you mentioned, like many of the places where the Brits are buying up homes, they're not in places where people actually want to live. And so there's not really an affordable housing crisis in those areas. So it could be a really good benefit for our industry. And then I think kind of in the same vein, we're going to continue to see minimum stays on the rise throughout Europe. I think that additional flexibility to kind of work and do a travel and combine it and maybe have, 2 weekends and then a couple of days in the week that you're working. And that way you take fewer holiday days, but you're in a more kind of exotic location, I think is going to be something that we definitely continue to see. So those are my big ones. Let's hear yours, Leo.
I'm gonna say that I think you're probably on the money. When unfortunately, the premise here, you've started the premise, which is that regulation is going to continue to be a major factor in Europe throughout 2025, and I can't disagree with that. Unfortunately, we do talk about it a lot, and I agree that it will likely lead to rural, coastal, secluded having a very good year because less regulated, tourism more encouraged, and I think people are still trying to find that off the beaten track experience that we talked about last week. The young generation not necessarily wanting to be in big crowds and at big parties, but actually want to kind of escape it. And yeah, maybe they live in big cities more likely to live in a big city and therefore want to escape out of it. We talk about Southern Europe doing very well, potentially doing very well out of the fact that people from the north can come and start their businesses in the south now, and they can make their homes in the south, and they can marry, they can have kids, and it's all done. It's all done very easily. It would seem to me that now is a phenomenally good time to be investing in building and creating, trying to capture that boom instead of closing the doors. But I think, so a bit of a rogue prediction is that whilst we'll talk about over-tourism and these markets will continue to grow, is that some people who read around the subject, people that are eco-conscious tourists or environmentally conscious or just sort of socially conscious, will go, do you know what? I don't think I'm wanted in Barcelona this summer. I don't think they want me there. I don't think I'm wanted in the Canary Islands. And I think they'll change accordingly. I think they'll change how. So making a prediction off the back of, start with the premise of regulation, I think that Northern Europe is going to have a really good 2025. So, I mean, the Scandinavian countries where cottage country is, people go up from the big cities, like Denmark, Norway, Sweden. I think people are going to be having a look at those markets that never have before. So I think when we start to look at where people are booking in the summer, we're going to see huge growth in those Northern European markets. And I believe that as a consequence of the regulation, so that's my kind of first one, as a consequence of the regulation, the ultimate winner in Southern Europe and the Mediterranean, the traditional hotspots, will be the hotels. I think we're going to see hotel prices rise at a higher rate than short-term rentals. I do also believe we're going to see short-term rental prices rise this year because there's going to be less supply on the market. And it could even be the year that we see supply growth demand growth start to outperform supply growth again in Europe. So again, there's a few themes there, but think about it logically. France are pulling up the drawbridge, as we've said. Spain's a mess. This could be the year that actually, we see decent price rises because there isn't basically enough short-term rental supply, and you can't build hotels quick enough. And really, the benefit is going to be these quite lousy hotels often are going to be able to charge a lot of money for you to come and stay, and the consumer ultimately is losing out. Is my first thought on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't see myself in the northern countries in the summer. Maybe
go on. Mauro would like that.
He would love it, but he wants to go in the wintertime when it's miserable. So like, he's even more of a psychopath. The one that I would go back and do is like more of a nature kind of tour. I mean, I did the Camino de Santiago. I got rained on every day for 34 days. It was fine. I can handle it. So I do think I would go back and do like, I don't know, maybe a trail through the highlands or something. But I don't know that I would go and just like stay in a cottage for a week. I guess, to be fair, if Southern Europe continues to be miserable in the summer and gets hotter and hotter and hotter, I mean, I think in Greece there were like 40 degrees, 41 degrees in August in Athens and some other areas. And so I think if that happens, then maybe people want to escape to the cold for a week or two. But I think it'll be more locals that are doing this kind of travel, Leo. So I think I absolutely see the trend. I just think for me, the interesting bit is going to be, I don't see a bunch of Spaniards going to Finland for a week. But I do see the Finns saying, you know what, actually, we've had some pretty nice summers recently. Like, no need to go too far and rent a cabin that's an hour and a half away from where they live and have that be their summer holiday rather than necessarily needing to go to the south of Spain. So
I think you're right. And I think you've explained it much better than me there. I think it's climate change related. And it's the fact that if you feel a bit unwelcome in Southern Europe, well, why not just stay closer to home? And I'm certainly thinking of British families as well. And if they would then think to book outside of the usual places that they look to. And I know that people that are reading the right newspapers and aware of these things, it will put them off if they can see that in Southern Europe they can get sprayed with a water gun. So let's see. We can review at the end of the year and see how wrong I was. But my other one is all the talk of AI. It's I think it's grown through the year really, really quickly. When we started the pod, we talked about it a little bit. Now it's everywhere. This is going to be the year of my prediction, and is 2025 is going to be the year where the AI booking agent comes of age. And I'm going to say it: Airbnb and Booking.com will both have AI booking agents by the end of the year. Discuss.
I think they will too, and I kind of hope they do, but I hope they work better than ChatGPT. So what I mean by that is I tried to do this when I was planning a trip towards the latter half of last year, and I basically put into ChatGPT, hey, like, find me, this is the itinerary, like, find me a 7-day itinerary and the top 3 rated hotels that are under this price per night, and include the links. And so it would send me this stuff, and then you would click on the links, and it was like they weren't real. So I would try, but rather than just telling you, hey, sorry, I can't do that, it would actually give you fake information. Well, you thought you had this brilliant plan. So I think as long as it actually works and people can put in those kind of things, then I think it would be great. I think for me, the biggest one that would be a massive win is because of the, kind of tying it back to this trend of like being able to work remotely and things like that. Currently, there is a feature, for example, on like Skyscanner and a lot of the other airlines, which is like you can look for, and Google Flights as well, you can look for like a weekend trip. But it doesn't filter very well because it'll show you any flights that leave on a Friday and return on a Sunday. But sometimes the flight will leave on Friday at 10 p.m. and return on Sunday at 9 a.m. And so that's actually not a weekend. So I think there's a lot to be improved. I think they've been trying to do this kind of thing and capture on some of that demand. But if they can do that well and have like, hey, this flight is, I don't know, 20 euros more, but it has a better schedule. And because it's on this different airline, it includes a bag and like these kind of things that for me are nuances that are super important if it's going to actually take off. But I think it's interesting that they'll have an MVP launched. I don't see it as replacing my planning just yet. Maybe that's
Sarah's
like a 2020
freak, everyone. She thinks she can plan better than the AI chatbot. We're now getting into it. She's like, look, no one's taking that away from me.
You haven't seen my itineraries, Leo. I am a force to be reckoned with. They're impressive. They're impressive. I do them like old school with like photos and stuff to get myself excited about each day and every day where I'm sleeping, and I compare all these different things. And oh yeah, it's good.
Sarah, you got to publish. We need to see these. The audience need to see these. What saying makes me think that there's a great opportunity for Expedia and or Hopper to get the AI chatbot right then, because then it can be your personal assistant for all things. It's almost like we're swinging back full circle to the days when you'd go into a travel agent and have someone plan your itinerary for you. But we moved away from that, like in the decentralized model of you are on the internet looking at all the different bits yourself. Obviously Expedia, Hopper, those types of businesses are threading that together, but not people were still kind of going their own way. Whereas if you had an AI agent able to do that for you, maybe that brings you back. Now, I'm not saying that's what 2025 looks like, but I think that's another interesting potential trend. But yeah, I'm sticking with Airbnb, Booking.com will both launch it this year. Sarah, any others? One fun one I had was Americans are going to come to Europe just to use TikTok. Guys, we need TikTok holidays when they ban it in America, right? Think about it.
The only thing is that, and I'm American, so I can say this: is anybody who wants to watch them other than Americans? I mean, so then I'm just wondering about their content, right? Like, who's going to watch it? And then if most of their followers are in the States, which typically happens, then nobody can watch their content anyway.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
I don't know, Leo. I think no.
No, but what I mean is, it's almost like we talk about some holidays are a digital detox. This is the opposite. It's like a natural world detox, just so I can binge on TikTok that I'm missing like crazy. So you're right. Without your American content producer, you'd have to go with the rest of the world and what they're making. But it's an outside bet. I'm not gonna put it on my list. But if it comes true, I'm going to be really annoyed that I didn't go for it.
Yeah, don't worry about the cathedrals or the Roman ruins, guys. TikTok.
All right, gang. Look, we did it. That's 2025 already sorted. Let's come back at the end of the year and see if we were right. Sarah, what you got going on this week? What's happening in your world?
Yeah, so I have tonight I'm going out to something called a drop, which I'm super excited about. It's like one of my favorite sort of dance experiences. So it's like house and disco. And they only do them. So normally they open in like April, but this year there is randomly one in January, which I'm super excited about. So normally they only do them like outside and in nice places. And they're going to do one tonight. So I'm really excited. So I'm going with a big group of friends, and we're going to dance our behinds off. And then tomorrow, it's a really very festival heavy weekend for me. Tomorrow, I have this goal along with my partner that we want to go to Tomorrowland, which is a massive EDM, electronic dance music festival in Belgium. 3.5 million people try and get tickets every year, and only 200,000 tickets are available. So we are super smart, and we have our Excel in order of preference of all of the different options with a flow chart. And we have invited all of our friends over to sit in our living room, and we're going to provide snacks, and they're going to help us buy tickets. So that is my Saturday sorted.
I love it. Sarah, I love it. Well, I'm now just already excited by seeing you next week to find out if you manage to do it. Like, you're going to be so buzzing if you manage it. That's exciting, dude.
Saturday, 6 p.m. We'll know. They go on sale at 5. If you don't have one by 6 p.m., it's not happening for you.
Oh God! Do you know what? I won't message you, but if you message me, celebratory message, I'll be excited. But I won't poke the bear. I'll leave you alone. But if I get a message for you to say you got it, I'll be delighted for you. All right, buddy. Well, look, for me, it's just family. My parents are going to come. It's birthday cake. It's just enjoying being with the kids.
All right, corner piece or middle piece?
Always middle piece. Always middle piece.
Psychopath. What? No.
Always middle piece.
Always corner piece. The icing.
But I'm thinking sandwich cake. I want thick icing in the middle, and I want more icing than's reasonable. Ideally, a tower of icing that's bigger than the cake itself works for me, if I'm honest. All right, gang. Give us your thoughts. Are you a corner or middle piece sort of person? Look, if you've enjoyed any of the themes on today's show, please hit like, share, subscribe in all the usual social places, or leave us a comment. Tell us what you thought about the episode. Tell us if you agree with what we think is going to happen in 2025, or, do a TikTok video about it. But remember, you're running out of time, guys, because, it's going to be banned. It's going to be banned. All right. Until next week. See you later.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.